The Hogen High Council's chambers erupt in chaos as the intercepted human broadcast flickers across the massive view screen. Explicit scenes of human mating rituals play out in graphic detail, sending shockwaves of panic through the plant-based aliens. Roots twist and leaves shudder as the implications sink in. "This cannot be allowed to spread," Elder Thorna declares, her voice trembling. "If the humans expand into our territory, their reproductive practices could devastate our entire species." In the midst of the uproar, a young Hogen scientist named Yara steps forward. Her leaves bristle with determination as she addresses the council. "I volunteer to infiltrate human society and gather intelligence on their mating methods." The chamber falls silent. Elder Thorna's eyes narrow as she considers the proposal. "It's dangerous, but necessary. Very well, Yara. You will undergo genetic modification to appear human-like while retaining your plant biology." Weeks later, Yara emerges from the modification chamber, her plant form now disguised beneath human-like skin. She boards a stealth ship bound for Earth, her mind racing with the weight of her mission. The ship touches down near a major human population center. Yara establishes her false identity as a foreign exchange student and enrolls in the local university. Her first day on campus arrives, bringing with it a mix of anticipation and dread. As Yara navigates the bustling campus grounds, she collides with a tall, muscular human male. Her eyes widen as she takes in his physique, so different from the Hogen form. "Whoa, sorry about that." The human flashes a warm smile. "I'm Jerry Davis. You look a bit lost." "New here." Yara nods, struggling to maintain composure as her sap flow accelerates. "Yes, I'm Yara. It's my first day." "Well, Yara, how about I show you around?" Jerry offers, gesturing towards the campus buildings. As they walk together, Yara fights to control her involuntary responses. Her concealed leaves threaten to unfurl at Jerry's proximity. She takes in his scent, noting the effect it has on her modified body. Jerry finds himself drawn to Yara's exotic features and mannerisms. He points out various landmarks, sneaking glances at her when she isn't looking. "So, where are you from, originally?" he asked. Yara recites her rehearsed backstory, all while cataloging Jerry's physical attributes for her mission. His musculature, his pheromones, the timbre of his voice. All of it fascinates her in unexpected ways. As night falls, Jerry turns to Yara with an inviting grin. "Hey, there's a big party tonight at the Sigma House. Want to come? It'll be a great chance to meet people and see how we humans like to have fun." Yara's heart races at the opportunity. This is exactly the kind of event she needs to observe for her mission. Yet she finds herself equally excited by the prospect of spending more time with Jerry. "I'd love to," she replies, surprised by the eagerness in her voice. As they head towards the party, Yara's mind whirls. She's about to witness human mating rituals firsthand, fulfilling her mission for the Hogen High Council. But her growing curiosity about Jerry and human males in general threatens to complicate everything. Little does Jerry know that his budding attraction to this mysterious foreign student carries interstellar implications. And as the Hogen High Council monitors Yara's progress from afar, they grow increasingly concerned about the potential for their agent to be compromised by prolonged exposure to human pheromones and mating behaviors. The stage is set for a night that will challenge everything Yara thought she knew about humans and herself. As Yara and Jerry approach the Sigma House, the thrum of bass-heavy music grew louder. Multicolored lights pulsed through the windows, and the lawn was dotted with clusters of laughing students. Yara's concealed leaves quivered with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Jerry placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Ready to experience your first college party?" Yara nodded, her skin tingling where Jerry touched her. They stepped inside, and the sensory assault hit her like a shockwave. The air was thick with the scent of sweat, alcohol, and something sweet and smoky. Bodies pressed together, swaying to the pounding rhythm. Strobe lights flashed, momentarily illuminating faces frozen in expressions of ecstasy. Overwhelmed, Yara stumbled backward. Jerry caught her elbow, steadying her. "Whoa, you okay? It can be a bit much at first." Yara blinked rapidly, trying to process the cacophony of input. "It's intense," she managed. Noticing her discomfort, Jerry gently guided her through the crowd. "Come on, I know a quieter spot. They made their way to a small alcove near the back of the house. The music was muffled here, and fewer people milled about. Yara took a deep breath, her modified body gradually adjusting to the new environment. Better? Jerry asked, his eyes filled with concern. Yes, thank you, Yara replied, offering a small smile. As they settled into conversation, Yara found herself increasingly aware of Jerry's proximity. The alcohol-laden air seemed to heighten her senses, making her skin hypersensitive. Every accidental brush of Jerry's arm sent sparks through her system. So, what do you think of campus so far? Jerry asked, leaning in to be heard over the muffled music. Yara opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat as Jerry's breath ghosted across her cheek. A wave of pleasure rippled through her, and she felt her skin warming. Panic flared as she realized her carefully constructed disguise might be slipping. It's fascinating, she managed, trying to subtly examine her arms for any signs of green. Back on the Hogen homeworld, alarms blared in the High Council's monitoring station. Elder Thorna burst into the room, her leaves dripping with agitation. "Report!" she demanded. A technician swiveled in his chair, gesturing to a holographic display of Yara's vital signs. "Counselor, Agent Yara's biometrics are showing extreme fluctuations. Her pheromone production has increased tenfold, and her cellular structure is destabilizing." Thorna's eyes widened in horror. "She's bonding with a human," she whispered. Composing herself, she barked out orders. "Dispatch Agent Zorn immediately. He must contain this situation before it's too late." Back at the party, Jerry was becoming increasingly aware of Yara's unique presence. Something about her scent was intoxicating, drawing him in. He found himself leaning closer, drinking in every detail of her exotic features. "Hey, want to try dancing?" he suggested, gesturing to the crowded living room where students gyrated to the music. Yara hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." As they made their way to the makeshift dance floor, Yara's heightened senses picked up on the subtle changes in the humans around her. Several male students turned their heads as she passed, their eyes following her movements with newfound interest. Jerry placed his hands on Yara's waist as a slower song began to play. The contact sent a jolt through her system, causing her concealed leaves to unfurl slightly beneath her clothes. She prayed the dim lighting would hide any visible changes. As they swayed to the music, Yara's plant-based pheromones kicked into overdrive. The effect on Jerry was immediate. His pupils dilated and his heart rate increased. But he wasn't the only one affected. Nearby dancers began to gravitate towards them, drawn by a scent they couldn't quite identify, but found irresistible. Across the room, Chad Thompson's attention snapped to the growing cluster of people around Jerry and Yara. The fraternity president's eyes narrowed as he took in Yara's striking appearance. "Who's the new girl?" he asked one of his frat brothers. "Some foreign exchange student," the brother replied. "Saw her with that nerd, Jerry Davis, earlier." Chad smirked. "Not for long. Time to show her what a real man looks like." As Chad and his entourage began making their way across the room, Yara sensed the shift in atmosphere. The pheromones she was inadvertently releasing had amplified the natural competitiveness and territorial instincts of the human males. Jerry, feeling a surge of possessiveness he didn't fully understand, pulled Yara closer. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing her tense posture. Before Yara could respond, Chad's voice boomed over the music. Well, what do we have here?" Jerry turned, keeping one arm protectively around Yara. "Chad," he said, his voice tight, "we're kind of in the middle of something here." Chad ignored him, focusing on Yara. "Hey, beautiful, why don't you ditch the dweeb and come hang with us? We'll show you how to really party." Yara's mind raced, trying to recall her briefings on human social interactions. She aimed for a diplomatic response. "Thank you for the offer, but I'm quite comfortable here with Jerry." Her formal language seemed to amuse Chad and his friends. They exchanged glances, snickering. "Come on, sweetheart," Chad pressed, reaching for Yara's arm. "Don't be like that." Jerry stepped between them, his face flushed with anger. "She said no, Chad. Back off." The tension in the air was palpable. Other partygoers began to take notice, forming a loose circle around the confrontation. Yara's anxiety spiked, causing small vines to sprout from her scalp, intertwining with her hair. Outside, a cloaked ship touched down in a nearby wooded area. Agent Zorn emerged, his plant-like form shimmering as it adapted a human appearance. He activated a handheld device, scanning for Yara's unique biosignature. As Zorn made his way towards the Sigma house, he failed to notice the small group of humans watching from the shadows. Ethan Blake, self-proclaimed ufologist, nudged his friend and pointed at Zorn's retreating form. "Did you see that?" Ethan whispered excitedly. "The way he just appeared out of nowhere? And look at that device he's carrying. Definitely not human tech." His companions nodded, wide-eyed. "What do we do?" one asked. Ethan's face split into a grin. "We follow him, of course. This could be the proof we've been waiting for." As the conspiracy theorists began their stealthy pursuit, the situation inside the party continued to escalate. Chad made another grab for Yara, this time managing to grasp her wrist. The contact sent a shock through her system, causing her to instinctively release a cloud of invisible spores. The effect was almost instantaneous. The humans closest to Yara and Chad suddenly felt a rush of intense emotions. Inhibitions lowered, and simmering tensions boiled over. Jerry, overcome by a wave of jealousy and protectiveness, shoved Chad hard. "I said, leave her alone!" Chad stumbled back, his face contorting with rage. He lunged at Jerry, and chaos erupted. The two young men grappled, crashing into a nearby table. Other partygoers, affected by the spores, joined the fray or paired off in passionate embraces. Yara stood in the center of the mayhem, horrified by what she had inadvertently caused. Her carefully constructed disguise was unraveling, literally. Green tendrils began to peek out from beneath her sleeves, and her skin took on a distinct emerald hue. As the brawl between Jerry and Chad intensified, Yara knew she had to act fast. But with her cover on the verge of being blown and a horde of spore-affected humans surrounding her, her options were rapidly dwindling. Outside, Zorn approached the house, unaware that Ethan and his team were closing in. The stage was set for a collision of worlds that would change the course of human-hydrogen relations forever. As the chaos in the Sigma house escalated, Yara felt her control slipping. The spores she had inadvertently released continued to spread through the party, intensifying the already heightened emotions of the partygoers. Jerry, still locked in a struggle with Chad, suddenly broke free and turned to Yara, his eyes wide with an almost primal desire. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice husky and urgent. Without waiting for a response, he grabbed Yara's hand and pulled her through the crowd. Yara's skin tingled where Jerry touched her, sending waves of unfamiliar sensations through her body. As they pushed past the throng of spore-affected students, she noticed several of them pausing to stare at her with a mix of awe and hunger in their eyes. They burst out of the Sigma house and into the cool night air. Jerry didn't slow down, leading Yara across the lawn and towards a secluded area of the campus gardens. The sudden quiet after the chaos of the party was jarring, broken only by their rapid breathing and the distant thump of bass from the house. "Jerry, Yara began, but her words were cut short as Jerry pulled her close. "There's something about you, Yara," he murmured, his face inches from hers. "I can't explain it, but I've never felt this way before." Before Yara could respond, Jerry's lips were on hers. The kiss was electric, sending shockwaves through her system. Her carefully constructed disguise began to falter as small, luminescent flowers bloomed across her skin, their soft glow nearly unleashed by her clothing. Unbeknownst to the entangled couple, they weren't alone in the gardens. Chad and his fraternity brothers, driven by the spores and their own desires, had followed them from the party. They moved through the shadows, their eyes locked on Yara's increasingly alien form. Nearby, hidden behind a cluster of trees, Agent Zorn observed the unfolding scene with growing alarm. He could see Yara's disguise failing, her true nature becoming more apparent with each passing second. Making a split-second decision, Zorn activated a device on his wrist. A pulse of energy rippled outward, and suddenly every electronic device in the vicinity went dark. The distant music from the party cut out, plunging the campus into an eerie silence. In the gardens, the landscape lighting flickered and died. leaving only the faint glow of Yara's bioluminescent skin to illuminate the area. Jerry pulled back from the kiss, momentarily startled by the sudden darkness. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice thick with confusion and desire. Yara didn't answer. She was too focused on the strange sensations coursing through her body. Where her skin touched Jerry's, she felt a tingling warmth that seemed to penetrate to her very core. Without realizing it, the tendrils of her hair began to wrap gently around Jerry's arms, pulling him closer. As they embraced again, Yara felt something shift within her. It was as if a barrier she hadn't known existed was suddenly dissolving. Human emotions, raw and powerful, flooded her consciousness. At the same time, Jerry gasped, his body trembling as traces of Yara's alien biology began to merge with his own. "Yara," Jerry whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "What's happening to us?" Before she could answer, a rustling in the nearby bushes caught their attention. Chad and his fraternity brothers emerged from the darkness, their eyes wide as they took in Yara's glowing form. "Holy shit," Chad breathed, all thoughts of aggression forgotten. You're not human, are you?" The fraternity brothers gathered around, their faces a mix of awe and fascination. In their spore-influenced state, the sight of Yara's alien beauty seemed to entrance them rather than frighten them. Yara tensed, ready to flee, but Jerry's arms tightened around her protectively. She looked up at him, surprised to see not fear or disgust in his eyes, but a deep, unwavering acceptance. Suddenly, a new group burst into the clearing. Ethan Blake and his team of UFO enthusiasts arrived, panting and wild-eyed. Ethan's face lit up with triumph as he spotted Yara. "I knew it!" he exclaimed, fumbling with a backup camera. "Aliens are real!" As Ethan began snapping pictures, Zorn knew he had to act. He stepped out from his hiding place, activating another device. A sweet, cloying scent filled the air, a powerful pheromone designed to incapacitate humans. The effect was almost immediate. Chad and his fraternity brothers swayed on their feet, their eyes growing unfocused. Ethan's camera slipped from his grasp as he struggled to remain conscious. Even Jerry began to slump in Yara's arms, fighting against the sudden wave of dizziness. Zorn strode purposefully towards Yara. "Agent Yara, your cover is blown. We must leave immediately." But as Zorn reached for her, Yara found herself resisting. She clung to Jerry, unwilling to let go. The mission that had seemed so crucial just hours ago now felt distant and unimportant compared to the connection she felt with Jerry. I can't leave him," Yara said, her voice trembling with unfamiliar emotions. Zorn's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand the implications of what's happening here. The fate of both our species could be at stake." As Zorn attempted to pry Yara away from Jerry, Ethan Blake, fighting against the effects of the pheromone, raised his camera one last time. With shaking hands, he managed to capture a few final shots of the scene. An alien standing over two intertwined forms, one human and one decidedly not. Yara looked from Jerry's semi-conscious form to Zorn's stern face, torn between duty and desire. The choice she made in the next few moments would have consequences far beyond this small college campus, potentially shaping the future of human-hydrogen relations forever. As Yara looked from Jerry's semi-conscious form to Zorn's stern face, the air around them suddenly shifted. A strange, sweet scent filled the garden, mingling with the lingering spores from earlier. Zorn's eyes widened in alarm as he realized his pheromone device was malfunctioning, releasing an unintended mixture of hydrogen and human pheromones. The effect was immediate and profound. Jerry's eyes snapped open, his gaze locking onto Yara's with an intensity that made her breath catch. The tendrils of her hair, still wrapped around his arms, began to pulse with a soft, rhythmic light. "Yara," Jerry whispered, his voice filled with wonder. I can feel you." Before Yara could respond, a wave of sensation washed over her. It was as if every cell in her body was suddenly alive and singing, reaching out to connect with Jerry's. She gasped as memories and emotions that weren't her own flooded her mind. Nearby, Chad and his fraternity brothers swayed on their feet, their expressions shifting from confusion to fascination. The aggression that had driven them earlier melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of empathy. Whoa, Chad murmured, his eyes wide as he took in Yara's glowing form. She's beautiful. How did we not see it before? Ethan Blake, fighting against the effects of the pheromones, fumbled with a device in his pocket. With trembling hands, he activated a signal jammer he had brought along, hoping to counteract any alien technology. The air crackled with static, and Zorn's communication device sputtered and died. Zorn cursed under his breath, realizing the severity of the situation. With his extraction equipment compromised and unable to contact the Hogen High Council, he had no choice but to retreat temporarily. He cast one last look at Yara, his expression a mix of concern and frustration, before melting into the shadows. As Zorn disappeared, Jerry and Yara's transformation accelerated. Jerry's skin began to take on a faint greenish tint, chlorophyll-like pigments spreading beneath the surface. He flexed his fingers, marveling at the surge of strength coursing through his body. Yara, in turn, felt her plant-based biology shifting. Her circulatory system pulsed and changed, mimicking the rhythm of a human heart. She pressed a hand to her chest, startled by the unfamiliar sensation of a heartbeat. "Jerry," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. "What's happening to us?" Before he could answer, a rush of images flooded their shared consciousness. Jerry saw flashes of Yara's homeworld, felt the weight of her mission and the loneliness of her journey. Yara experienced the depth of human emotions, the complexities of Earth's ecosystem, and the intricate web of relationships that define Jerry's life. Their eyes met, and in that moment, they understood each other completely. Ethan Blake, witnessing the extraordinary scene unfolding before him, made a split-second decision. He approached Jerry and Yara, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I want to help," he said, his voice steady despite the awe evident in his eyes. This could change everything, but we need to get you out of here before—" The wail of distant sirens cut him off. Campus security, alerted by the earlier commotion, was approaching fast. Jerry tightened his grip on Yara's hand. "We need to go," he said, the words echoing both in his voice and in Yara's mind. Yara nodded, her alien features softening slightly as her biology continued to adapt. "But where?" Ethan's face lit up with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "I know a place. There's a network of tunnels under the campus. We can use them to escape." As the sirens grew louder, Chad and his fraternity brothers formed a protective circle around Jerry, Yara, and Ethan. "Go," Chad said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. "We'll distract them." With a grateful nod, Ethan led Jerry and Yara to a concealed entrance hidden behind a thick cluster of bushes. As they slipped into the darkness, Yara's bioluminescent skin cast a soft ethereal glow on the damp tunnel walls. Jerry marveled at his newfound strength as he easily moved aside a rusted gate blocking their path. Yara's tendrils reached out, sensing the air currents and guiding them through the labyrinthine passages. As they navigated the underground maze, Ethan couldn't help but ask questions, his curiosity overcoming his fear. "So you're really an alien? What's your planet like? Why are you here?" Yara hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. But as she met Jerry's eyes, she felt a surge of trust and openness flow through their bond. "My world is different," she began, her voice echoing softly in the tunnel. "We came here to study Earth, to understand your species, but I never expected this." Jerry squeezed her hand. "Neither did I, but I'm glad it happened." As they continued through the tunnels, none of them aware of the momentous decisions being made far above their heads, the bond between Jerry and Yara continued to strengthen. With each step, they moved further from the world they had known and closer to an uncertain but shared future. As they emerged from the tunnel system, the cool night air caressed their faces, a stark contrast to the damp, musty atmosphere they'd left behind. Ethan led them through a small copse of trees, his footsteps sure despite the darkness. "There's an old ranger station nearby," he whispered. "We can regroup there." Jerry and Yara followed, their hands intertwined, the connection between them pulsing with each step. The forest seemed to come alive around them, leaves rustling in recognition as they passed. The ranger station loomed ahead, a dilapidated structure barely visible in the moonlight. Ethan tried the door, finding it unlocked. They slipped inside, and Yara's bioluminescent skin cast a soft, otherworldly glow throughout the room. "We should be safe here for now," Ethan said, collapsing onto a dusty chair. "But we need a plan." Jerry nodded, his eyes never leaving Yara. The changes in both of them were accelerating. Delicate vines now intertwined with Yara's hair, swaying gently as if caught in an unseen breeze. Her skin shimmered, its color shifting subtly with her emotions. A soft pink of affection when she looked at Jerry, a deep blue of concern as she surveyed their surroundings. Jerry's own transformation was equally dramatic. His skin had taken on a faint green tinge, and he could feel a strange connection to the plants around them. On impulse, he reached out and touched a withered fern in the corner. To his amazement, it straightened and unfurled, leaves spreading wide as if greeting an old friend. "Incredible," he breathed, looking at his hands in wonder. Yara moved closer, her eyes wide with fascination. "Our biologies are merging, adapting. I've never seen anything like this before." As they marveled at their new abilities, Ethan's modified smartphone buzzed. He frowned, tapping at the screen. "It's an encrypted message," he muttered, fingers flying as he worked to decode it. Jerry and Yara waited, tension building in the small room. Finally, Ethan looked up, his face a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It's from Dr. Samantha Lee," he explained. "She's a xenobiologist, one of the best in the field. She says she's been monitoring unusual energy signatures in the area and traced them to our location." "Can we trust her?" Jerry asked, instinctively pulling Yara closer. Ethan nodded. "If anyone can help us understand what's happening to you two, it's her. Plus, she has connections with a government task force preparing for potential alien contact. This might be our best shot at handling this situation safely." After a brief discussion, they decided to meet Dr. Lee. Using Ethan's expertise in covert operations, they arranged a rendezvous in a nearby clearing. As they waited, Jerry and Yara's bond continued to deepen. Their telepathic connection expanded, allowing them to share not just thoughts and emotions, but sensory experiences. Jerry closed his eyes and suddenly found himself seeing through Yara's perspective, the world around them alive with colors and energies he'd never perceived before. A soft rumble announced Dr. Lee's arrival. A nondescript van pulled up, its headlights cutting through the darkness. A woman emerged, her eyes widening as she took in Jerry and Yara's appearance. "Fascinating," she breathed, immediately pulling out a handheld device and beginning to scan them. "The symbiotic mutation of your DNA is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's creating a perfect blend of human and, well, whatever species you are," she said, nodding to Yara. As Dr. Lee continued her examination, a familiar figure materialized from the shadows. Zorn approached, his stance wary but no longer aggressive. "Agent Yara," he said, his voice grave. "The Hogen High Council has made a decision. They wish to initiate diplomatic contact with Earth." The announcement hung in the air, its implications staggering. Before they could fully process this information, another vehicle approached. A sleek black SUV pulled up, and a man in a crisp military uniform stepped out. "I'm Major William Stone," he announced, his gaze sweeping over the group before settling on Jerry and Yara. "And I believe we have a lot to discuss." The Major quickly outlined his proposal, a controlled revelation of alien life to humanity, using Jerry and Yara as a bridge between the two species. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. Before they could delve deeper into the plan, the distant sound of engines shattered the night stillness. Flashlight beams cut through the trees, accompanied by shouts and the crackle of radios. "It's campus security and local law enforcement," Ethan hissed. "They've tracked us down." Panic surged through the group. They were out of time, forced to make a decision that would shape the future of two worlds. As the authorities drew closer, Yara felt a sudden surge of power coursing through her. Without fully understanding what she was doing, she reached out with her mind, connecting with the plant life around them. The forest exploded into motion. Trees groaned and shifted, their branches weaving together to form a dense canopy. Vines erupted from the ground, twisting and growing at an impossible rate. In mere moments, a living fortress had sprung up around them, shielding them from view. Jerry, connected to Yara through their bond, instinctively joined his power with hers. Together, they shaped and reinforced their organic shelter, creating a sanctuary hidden from the outside world. Inside their verdant haven, Dr. Lee's eyes shone with excitement as she continued to analyze their evolving biology. "The potential applications of your abilities are staggering," she said. "We could revolutionize medicine, agriculture, environmental restoration." As the authorities began to set up a perimeter around their hidden sanctuary, the group faced a critical decision. Should they use Jerry and Yara's newfound abilities to escape and maintain secrecy? Or was it time to emerge and face the consequences of revealing the existence of alien life to the world? The decision became even more complicated when Zorn received another transmission from the Hogen High Council. His face grew serious as he listened, then turned to address the group. "The Council believes that the bond between Yara and Jerry could be the key to solving a critical environmental crisis on our homeworld," he said. "They're urging us to ensure your safety and facilitate your journey to the Hogen planet." The weight of two worlds now rested on their shoulders. As the sounds of the authorities trying to breach their plant fortress grew louder, time was running out. Jerry looked at Yara, their shared consciousness brimming with a mix of fear, excitement, and perseverance. "Whatever we decide," he said, speaking aloud for the benefit of the others, "we're in this together." Yara nodded, squeezing his hand. The vines in her hair pulsed with light, reflecting the intensity of the moment. Around them, their allies waited, poised for action. The future of interstellar relations hung in the balance, and the next few moments would determine the course of history. History and interstellar relations. The group exchanged determined glances, their dedication hardening. Jerry and Yara, their hands still clasped, stepped forward. As one, they reached out with their newfound abilities, connecting deeply with the plant life surrounding them. The fortress of vines and branches began to shift and grow. Massive, petal-like structures emerged from the tangled vegetation, unfurling with a soft rustle. The authorities, who had been attempting to breach the outer layers, stumbled back in awe as a colossal, flower-like formation blossomed before their eyes. As the last petal opened, it revealed Jerry, Yara, and their allies standing at its center. Flashlights and camera flashes illuminated their extraordinary forms, capturing the moment for a stunned world to see. Major William Stone, his military training kicking in, quickly took control of the situation. "This area is now under military jurisdiction," he announced, his voice carrying over the chaos. "I'm declaring this a matter of national security. Establish a secure perimeter immediately." As Stone's orders were carried out, Dr. Samantha Lee stepped forward, her eyes shining with excitement. She addressed the gathered officials and media, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is a scientific breakthrough of unprecedented scale," she began. "These two individuals," she gestured to Jerry and Yara, "represent a unique symbiotic relationship between human and extraterrestrial biology. Their DNA has merged in ways we've never seen before, unlocking abilities that could revolutionize our understanding of genetics and physiology." While Dr. Lee continued her impromptu presentation, Zorn activated a sleek alien device. Its surface pulsed with soft light as he input a series of commands. "I'm contacting our diplomatic envoy," he explained to the others. "They need to know what's happening here. A swift arrival could be crucial in preventing misunderstandings." Jerry and Yara stood at the center of the commotion, their transformed appearances drawing countless stares. Jerry's skin now had a distinct green sheen, with delicate leaf-like patterns tracing his arms. Yara's alien features had softened further, her hair a cascade of gently swaying vines that seemed to react to her emotions. Their eyes met, and without a word they communicated volumes. Their bond had deepened to the point where thoughts and feelings flowed between them like a river, allowing them to navigate the chaos around them with surprising calm. As the news of their existence spread, the world erupted into a frenzy of reactions. Social media exploded with theories and debates, while governments scrambled to formulate official responses. The United Nations convened an emergency session, its members arguing heatedly over the implications of first contact. Back at the scene, Dr. Lee's team had set up a makeshift research station. They worked feverishly, analyzing data from their scans of Jerry and Yara. "The potential applications are staggering," Dr. Lee explained to Major Stone, her words tumbling out in excitement. "Their combined DNA could hold the key to advancements in organ transplantation, cellular regeneration. We might even be able to cure diseases we thought were untreatable." As she spoke, Jerry and Yara exchanged a glance. Without a word, they stepped away from the crowd and approached a nearby area of cleared land. Together, they reached out, channeling their shared power into the earth. Before the astonished eyes of onlookers, the barren ground came to life. Grass sprouted and spread in a rapidly expanding circle. Saplings burst from the soil, growing into mature trees in a matter of minutes. Flowers of every color bloomed, their petals unfurling in a dazzling display. A hush fell over the crowd as they witnessed this impossible feat of ecological restoration. Even the most skeptical observers couldn't deny the potential benefits of such power. Zorn's communication device suddenly emitted a series of complex tones. He listened intently, his expression growing grave. "The High Council has made a decision," he announced. "They're sharing information about the crisis on our homeworld. A botanical plague is ravaging our ecosystem. They believe that studying Jerry and Yara's unique biology might be the key to finding a cure." This revelation sent ripples through the gathered officials. Major Stone frowned, considering the implications. "This changes things," he muttered. "We'll need to coordinate with other nations, set up proper diplomatic channels." As discussions intensified, a commotion at the edge of the secure perimeter caught everyone's attention. A group of protesters had gathered, waving signs with anti-alien slogans. At their head stood a charismatic figure with a megaphone. "Don't be fooled by their tricks," the man shouted, his voice carrying across the field. "This is the beginning of an invasion. We must act now to protect our planet." "Victor Creed," Major Stone growled, recognizing the rabble-rouser. "He's been spreading conspiracy theories online for weeks. We'll need to keep an eye on him and his followers." Before anyone could respond, a low rumble filled the air. All eyes turned skyward as a massive ship broke through the clouds, its sleek form gleaming in the sunlight. The Hogen diplomatic envoy had arrived. Jerry and Yara stood hand in hand, their transformed bodies a living symbol of the union between their species. As the ship began its descent, they shared a silent promise to face whatever came next together, their unique bond bridging the gap between two worlds. The ship's landing gear extended, touching down on Earth soil for the first time. A hush fell over the crowd as a hatch began to open, revealing the silhouettes of the Hogen diplomats. The moment of true first contact had arrived, and the future of both species hung in the balance. The Hogen ship's massive form cast a shadow over the assembled crowd as it touched down, its landing gear sinking into the soft earth. The hatch opened with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the silhouettes of the Hogen diplomats. Jerry and Yara, their hands still clasped, stepped forward. Their unique appearance, Jerry's green-tinged skin and Yara's vine-like hair, marked them as the living embodiment of human Hogen cooperation. They stood tall, unofficial ambassadors of a new era. Ambassador Thorna emerged from the ship, her statuesque form adorned with intricate leaf-like patterns that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Her eyes widened as she took in Jerry and Yara's appearance, a mix of awe and hope playing across her features. "Remarkable," she breathed, her voice carrying a musical lilt. "The High Council's reports hardly did justice to your transformation." Dr. Lee stepped forward, tablet in hand. "Ambassador Thorna, I'm Dr. Samantha Lee. We've made some fascinating discoveries about Jerry and Yara's unique biology." Thorna inclined her head. "We are most interested in your findings, Dr. Lee. But first, I bring news from the Hogen High Council." The assembled crowd leaned in, tension palpable in the air. "In light of this unprecedented alliance," Thorna announced, her voice clear and strong, "the Council has authorized the sharing of our advanced terraforming technology with Earth." A collective gasp rose from the human officials. Major Stone's eyebrows shot up, his mind already racing with the implications. Thorna continued, "In exchange, we humbly request Earth's assistance with the ecological crisis plaguing our homeworld. Dr. Lee's eyes lit up. She glanced at her team, who nodded eagerly. Ambassador, we may have a solution. Our research into Jerry and Yara's hybrid DNA suggests it could be the key to developing a cure for your botanical plague. Excitement rippled through both human and Hirogen delegations. Thorna's leaf patterns seemed to pulse with energy. This is most promising news, Dr. Lee. We must begin work immediately. As the scientists huddled together, trading data and theories, Major Stone stepped away to coordinate with his superiors. The world needed to be ready for this new chapter in human history. Zorn approached Jerry and Yara, his earlier wariness replaced by a look of respect. Your bond may have saved 2 worlds, he said quietly. The High Council wishes to know if you would consider visiting our homeworld. Your presence could accelerate our research. Before they could respond, a commotion erupted at the edge of the secure perimeter. Victor Creed's voice boomed through a megaphone, his words sharp with fear and anger. Don't be fooled by their false promises, he shouted. This is the beginning of the end for humanity. Jerry and Yara exchanged a glance, their shared consciousness buzzing with perseverance. Without a word, they moved in unison towards an open area near the protest. As cameras turned to follow them, Jerry and Yara reached out, channeling their power into the earth. The ground trembled and then erupted in a spectacular display of life. Flowers burst from the soil, their petals unfurling in a riot of colors. Trees spiraled upwards, their branches intertwining to form intricate patterns. Amidst it all, strange and beautiful Hirogen plants took root, their alien forms blending seamlessly with Earth's flora. The protesters fell silent, their signs lowering as they stared in awe at the breathtaking scene before them. Even Creed seemed at a loss for words. Ambassador Thorna approached Jerry and Yara, her eyes shining. You have created a living symbol of what our species can achieve together, she said softly. This is a new beginning for both our worlds. As news of the spectacular display spread, the tide of public opinion began to shift. Social media exploded with images and videos of the human-Hirogen hybrid pair and their incredible abilities. In response to the rapidly evolving situation, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Representatives from major world powers gathered to draft the first human-Hirogen cooperation treaty. Jerry and Yara found themselves at the center of intense negotiations, their unique perspective invaluable in bridging the gap between human and Hirogen understanding. They sat in on meetings, offering insights into both cultures and helping to smooth over misunderstandings. Meanwhile, Zorn worked closely with Earth's top scientists, introducing them to the concept of Hirogen biocomputers. These living machines, capable of processing vast amounts of data and monitoring complex environmental systems, quickly became a key point of discussion in the ongoing talks. As days turned into weeks, Jerry and Yara's bond continued to evolve. They discovered they could communicate with and influence plant life on a global scale, a power that both exhilarated and terrified them. One morning, as they stood on a balcony overlooking a city slowly being transformed by Hirogen-inspired architecture, Jerry turned to Yara. I think it's time, he said, his voice quiet but firm. We need to go to the Hirogen homeworld. Yara nodded, her vine-like hair swaying gently. Our abilities could be the key to stopping the plague at its source, she agreed. As they made their decision, Earth's leaders raced to finalize the cooperation treaty. In labs around the world, human and Hirogen scientists worked side by side, unlocking the secrets of their shared future. The stage was set for Jerry and Yara's next great adventure. As they prepared for their journey to the stars, the fate of 2 worlds rested in their uniquely intertwined hands. As they prepared for their journey to the stars, the fate of 2 worlds rested in their uniquely intertwined abilities. In the days leading up to their departure, Earth scientists worked tirelessly to create a safeguard for Jerry and Yara's interstellar voyage. Dr. Lee led the team in developing a groundbreaking bioorganic suit designed to protect the couple while amplifying their extraordinary powers. These suits are unlike anything we've ever created, Dr. Lee explained, her eyes shining with excitement as she presented the sleek, iridescent garments. They're a fusion of Earth and Hirogen technology, tailored to your unique physiology. Jerry and Yara stood side by side, marveling at the suits. The material seemed to pulse with life, responding to their proximity. As they donned the suits, a sensation of warmth and connection washed over them, their bond intensifying in a way they hadn't thought possible. Ambassador Thorna nodded approvingly. With these, you'll be able to safely navigate our world while maximizing your abilities. It's time we depart. The Hogen diplomatic ship stood ready, its sleek form gleaming in the sunlight. Jerry and Yara boarded alongside Ambassador Thorna and a hand-picked team of Earth's top xenobiologists. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Jerry squeezed Yara's hand, their shared consciousness buzzing with a mix of anticipation and nervous energy. The journey passed in a blur of stars and swirling cosmic phenomena. Jerry and Yara spent much of the time in deep meditation, guided by Hogen specialists in preparation for the challenges ahead. As they entered the Hogen home system, a hush fell over the ship. The planet came into view, its once vibrant surface now marred by vast swaths of gray and brown. Jerry and Yara gasped in unison, their hearts aching at the sight of such devastating decay. "It's worse than we imagined," Thorna said softly, her leaf patterns dimming in sorrow. The ship touched down in a clearing surrounded by withered vegetation. As the hatch opened, Jerry and Yara stepped out onto alien soil, their biosuits adapting instantly to the environment. The air was thick with the scent of decay, a stark contrast to the planet's natural floral aroma. Without hesitation, they moved towards the nearest cluster of dying plants. Their hands intertwined, they reached out with their combined consciousness, probing deep into the roots of the affliction. "It's not just a disease," Jerry murmured, his eyes wide with realization. Yara nodded, her vine-like hair swaying gently. "There's a pattern here, a purpose." As they delved deeper, their perceptions expanded exponentially. Through their enhanced bond, they became aware of the planet's entire ecosystem, a vast network of interconnected life forms. At the center of it all, they sensed something unexpected, a primitive form of sentience. "The plague," Yara breathed. "It's alive." Jerry's grip on her hand tightened. "Not just alive, it's trying to communicate." Their revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled team. Dr. Lee frantically recorded data while Ambassador Thorna conferred with her superiors. Jerry and Yara knew what they had to do. In perfect synchronization, they reached out with their minds, attempting to establish contact with the plague entity. The biosuits hummed with energy, amplifying their abilities beyond anything they'd experienced before. Suddenly, they were no longer standing on the planet's surface. Their consciousness had merged with the plague itself, experiencing its existence firsthand. They saw flashes of the planet's history, lush forests giving way to sprawling cities, natural habitats destroyed in the name of progress. The plague's voice resonated through their shared mind. It was not malevolent, but desperate. It had evolved as a last-ditch effort to save the planet from the Hogen's unchecked expansion. Jerry and Yara understood in an instant. They projected images of their own symbiotic relationship, showing how humans and Hogen could coexist in harmony with nature. They offered a new path forward, a way for the plague to transform from a destructive force into a regenerative one. For what seemed like an eternity, they waited. Then slowly they felt the entity's consciousness shift. Acceptance, agreement, hope. As Jerry and Yara guided the transformation, the effects rippled across the planet's surface. Withered plants sprang back to life, evolving into hardier, more adaptive species. The gray patches on the planet's surface began to fill with vibrant colors as new growth exploded in every direction. The assembled Hogen watched in awe as their world was reborn before their eyes. Ambassador Thorna wept openly, her leaf patterns glowing with joy and gratitude. As Jerry and Yara's consciousness returned to their bodies, they stumbled, overwhelmed by the experience. Dr. Lee and her team rushed to their aid, but the couple waved them off, smiling through their exhaustion. "It worked," Jerry said, his voice hoarse but filled with wonder. Yara nodded, her eyes shining. "We did it. We saved their world." As the news of their success spread, celebrations erupted across both Earth and the Hogen homeworld. The United Nations convened an emergency session to ratify the Human-Hogen Treaty, establishing a framework for peaceful coexistence and shared scientific advancement. Back on the Hogen planet, Jerry and Yara stood hand in hand, watching as teams of human and Hogen scientists worked together in the newly revitalized landscape. The air was filled with a mixture of Earth and alien flora, a living symbol of the harmony they had achieved. Ambassador Thorna approached them, her expression solemn yet filled with gratitude. "You have given us a second chance," she said. "How can we ever repay you?" Jerry and Yara exchanged a glance, their shared consciousness buzzing with ideas for the future. They turned back to Thorna, ready to take the next step in their incredible journey. "We have a proposal," Yara began, her vine-like hair swaying with excitement. Jerry nodded, squeezing her hand. "It's time to bring our worlds even closer together."
If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.